Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, verse number 26. Iyam cha bhumir bhagavata
Iyam cha bhumir bhagavata
nayasitoru parasati
nyasi toru bharasati
Shrimad Bistat Pada Nyasai
Srimad Bistat Pada Nyasai
Sarvata Kritakotuka.
Sarvata Krita Kautuka.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The burden of the earth was certainly diminished by the personality of Godhead and by others as well. When he was present as an incarnation, all good was performed because of his auspicious footprints. Text 27. Sochat Yasru Kala Sadvi
Suchatya Shukala Sadvi
Durbag Evo Jihita Sati
Durbhagyavu Jita Sati
Abramanya Nripavyaja
Abramanya Nripavyaja
Sudra Bhokshanti Mamiti.
Shudra Bhoksyanti Mam Iti.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Now she, the chaste one, being unfortunately forsaken by the personality of Godhead, laments her future with tears in her eyes, for now she is being ruled and enjoyed by lower class men who pose as rulers. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Kshatriya, or the man who is qualified to protect the sufferers, is meant to rule the state. Untrained lower class men, or men without ambition to protect the sufferers, cannot be placed on the seat of an administrator. Unfortunately, in the age of Kali, the lower class men, without training, occupy the post of a ruler by strength of popular votes. And instead of protecting the sufferers, such men create a situation quite intolerable for everyone. Such rulers illegally gratify themselves at the cost of all comforts of the citizens, and thus the chaste Mother Earth cries to see the pitiable condition of her sons, both men and animals. That is the future of the world in the age of Kali, when irreligiosity prevails most prominently, and in the absence of a suitable king to curb irreligious tendencies, educating the people systematically in the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam will clear up the hazy atmosphere of corruption, bribery, blackmail, etc. Srila Prabhupada Patapavani Ki Jai. So again, the focus is on low-class people taking the position of leaders of society. And Prabhupada says, untrained lower-class men or men without ambition to protect the sufferers cannot be placed on a seat of an administrator. Unfortunately, in the age of Kali, the lower-class men without training occupy the post of a ruler by strength of popular votes. And instead of protecting the sufferers, such men create a situation quite intolerable for everyone. Now, this is a situation. It's not only men, it's women also. Just like there are female politicians who become mayors, governors, vice president, etc. And they also have low-class behavior, or low-class culture. And instead of, although they claim they want to alleviate the suffering of the people, they just increase it. But at the same time, they line their pockets with a lot of illegally collected money due to bribery, etc. So everyone gets confused. People are suffering. They don't know why. They blame it on the politicians, they blame it on God, they blame it on the environment, they blame it on this, they blame it on that. Everything is cloudy or hazy. They don't actually see the real cause and effect taking place. but they attribute things to their imagined cause and effect. So, how is such a confusing situation going to be cleared up? Well, the solution is given. In the absence of a suitable king to curb irreligious tendencies, educating the people systematically in the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam will clear up the hazy atmosphere of corruption, bribery, blackmail, etc. There it is. That's the solution. Educating the people systematically in the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam. That this is real education. Of course, we don't believe it. We don't actually believe it. And therefore, we subject our children, our relatives, so forth, to being taught by the demons. And they get pulled into the same system of exploitation and suffering. And therefore, it's the duty of a devotee to understand what is the reality in the material world. And Prabhupada explains it over and over again. He says, and well, wait a minute, Krishna says, not just Prabhupada, Krishna says in the 8th chapter, he says, Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartin original. Mamapetya konteya. He says that this material world is actually a horrible place. And it is a place where there's constant suffering. And people are lazy, they're have bad luck, punarjanma na vidyate, and they're obliged to take birth again and again in the same situation. So that's 8th chapter, 16th verse. And then again, in the same chapter, Krishna says, he says that, let's see. He says that anityam asikam lokam, that this material world is temporary. Asukam, there's no happiness, and it's full of suffering. So, and also he says, Mamapetya punarjanma dukalayama sasvatam, that after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, anityam, which is full of miseries, dukalayam. So here we have a explanation by Krishna of the real nature of the material world. And everyone will experience this in this world. If Krishna says it, we should believe it. But yet everyone said, no, I'm going to find a position where it's not anityam and asukam, where there's no more suffering, I'll be happy. Just like I saw an advertisement yesterday for a place in the Puget Sound. They don't give the address, but the place is for sale. And they say, in these uncertain times where there are riots and shootings and turmoil in society, you can buy this property, which is completely safe. It's a secret place. It's an island in itself, but yet it's not too far away from shopping malls and things like that. And then they begin to describe, all the walls are super solidified. It's earthquake proof, and there's even a secret passageway from your living room through a tunnel if you have to escape. They actually said if you have to escape. And it goes through a list of all these things. Already there is a acclimatized 9,000 square foot building with reinforced walls, and there's enough food to feed your family for at least 5 years. And the climate is controlled so that no bugs and no humidity can get in there. And it goes through a whole list of things of survival. So now, why are they advertising a place? It only costs $6 million also. Yeah. So obviously that eliminates the largest part of the society. So in other words, it's an escape haven in times of uncertainty. So, but it's only for an elite person and his family. And it talks about all kinds of things like guns and ammunition. They're all there. You don't have to buy anything. You just walk in and you have gardens that are self-sufficient and so forth. So, is this a solution? No, it's not a solution. The solution is given by Prabhupada. He says, in the absence of a suitable king to curb irreligious tendencies. So we don't have that suitable king in Washington State or in the United States or in Seattle City or in Seattle County or in the other counties. So the only solution is educating the people systematically in the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's not buying a safe haven in the Puget Sound area with all these amenities. That's not the solution. That's defeat. That means, oh, you can't really do anything to change the people, so just don't even try. But you should have this safe haven with a secret tunnel for escape. Where are you going to escape to? If they found your property, that they're not even revealing the address. That's like it's a secret, right? So where are you going to escape to? Is there a boat waiting for you to take you out to the Pacific Ocean? And where are you going to go in the Pacific Ocean? See? The whole thing is nonsense. And it's an expensive nonsense, $6 million. Okay, so in the absence of a suitable king to curb irreligious tendencies, educating the people systematically in the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam will clear up the hazy atmosphere of corruption, bribery, and blackmail. So we should believe this, that our real vocation in life is to learn this Bhagavatam and then preach it to others. That's what we should do. But we have to believe it ourselves, and we have to act as if we believe it. It's not like, okay, I'll listen to the class, but I'm not going to take it seriously. I'm not taking my kids out of school. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. But I'll listen to it. But no, that's not what's being said here. That if you listen to this Bhagavatam carefully, then you'll make these changes in your life. But most of all, you'll go out and preach. Preaching is the essence. Books are the basis. Utility is the principle. Like that. So preaching is the essence. So we need to take Bhagavatam seriously, spend the time to understand it carefully, and then preach it vigorously, because it's the only thing that can solve these problems. Otherwise, people can't figure out what's going wrong, why it's going wrong, or how they're going to help themselves, and who can afford $6 million? And even if you could afford it, is that going to solve your problem? No, it's not going to solve your problem. The example is Howard Hughes. He was a very famous man. He was one of the richest people in the United States. He made his money through aviation. But as he got older, he became paranoid. He became paranoid of germs. Just like now, everyone's paranoid. They put this thing here, right? Paranoid, maybe my germs will go out, or maybe your germs will come toward me, right? So he was paranoid of germs, but he was an extremely rich guy. So what did he do? He built himself an impenetrable bunker. And there was no door to get in and no door to get out. There was only a little space that people could push food in, and he could communicate a little bit if he wanted to. He didn't really want to communicate. And he was one of the richest men in the world at that time, like 1950s and 60s. So what happened, at a certain point, he got so paranoid, he closed that little corridor. He closed it. And then he died of starvation and anxiety. So this is an extremely rich guy, very intelligent guy, and look what happened to him because of his paranoia. Are you looking him up? Howard Hughes, Hughs, Howard. Howard the Coward. Instead of hiding in a bunker and dying there, he could have learned Bhagavatam. You see his name?
Germ phobia.
Yes,
Germ phobia.
exactly. He had germ phobia. Just like this thing is for germ phobia, right? Okay, you want to read a little bit about him? These are real life examples.
Harvard, is it the billionaire?
What?
The billionaire aviator, motion picture producer, a business tycoon, spent most of his life trying to avoid germs. Towards the end of his life, he lay naked in bed, in a darkened hotel rooms in what he considered a germ-free zone. Yeah.
No, but he built a bunker. He built an impenetrable building, and he died in that building. It doesn't say that?
He wore tissue boxes on his feet to protect them, and he burned his clothing if someone near him became ill. Phobia grew to so severe that it might have contributed to Hughes' increasing addiction to the codeine and his reclusiveness in the 2 decades before the death from the heart failure. Bunker.
Okay, anyway. It should,
A long article, yeah?
it should talk about a
It's a
bunker
long
also.
article, yeah? Long.
Yeah.
Long article, maybe somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2005.
Okay, so hey, you see, today, again, people are getting germ phobia, just like Howard the Coward. And this germ phobia makes them anxious. But what are they going to do? How are they going to get away from the germs? Like, there are people in India, they're getting sick with COVID without even going out of the house. They don't even go out of the house, and they still get sick, and they die. You see? So you can see that this is a serious issue. So
Another thing they say now, I think they've analyzed that the mask actually not effective.
well, most masks are not 100% effective. Only one mask they claim is somewhat, maybe 80%, 90% effective. But it's hard to get it.
They're gonna make it more expensive.
Well, it is very expensive, but it's hard to get it because there's
Gonna
a
make
very
money.
short supply of it. Yeah.
Many people are doing business, they're just making money
Of
because
course.
of this fear around.
Yeah. No, you make money when you scare people.
Yeah.
Once people get scared, they're willing to spend money for things that they don't really need, but they're scared. So this is a tactic. Okay, so unless we can train people to come up to the Brahminical level, or at least Vaishya, Kshatriya level, or a bona fide Sudra level, there's going to be continual havoc in society. Therefore, this preaching of Krishna consciousness is absolutely important. And we have to get much more serious about preaching. Much more serious, because there's no other solution. The vaccine is not a solution. They'll make a vaccine for one type of virus, and another type of virus will come up. And then they'll, they'll put everyone in quarantine, and then the whole economy breaks down. So, one thing leads to another thing, and everything is negative. It's not positive. The only positive thing is Bhagavatam, and then living it, not just understanding it, but you have to live it. Just like Mayavadis become free of most karma by living very strict lives. But still, they don't go back to Vaikuntha because they don't believe it exists. Right? Although they're, in many ways they're pious, they avoid all kinds of sinful things, but that's not enough. One must act in the position of devotion to Krishna, unalloyed devotion. Then you get the final solution. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions?
So you said that we should not, we should have faith on Srimad Bhagavatam, and that faith should be taken further, not just reading and getting convinced only in the class, but also implementing in the practical life.
So what's the plan? What's the plan for implementing?
So
you have to have a vision of the
so
future.
then,
It's like when I was here in 1991, I had a vision for the future, right? But nobody else could see it. They said, "What? Are you crazy? This place there's nobody here. It's far away from Seattle. This is a loser."
Yeah. So the question is, what should be the plan to make this transition smooth and not abrupt? For example, I have so much background of coming from the materialistic life and still living materialistic life, but then the transition also has to be smooth. That it should not be abrupt to disturbed family as well as. So what should be the plan?
Well, that's a good question. Well, I have one plan. That is that in the next 10 years, we transit from, depending on the corporate culture for making a living, we develop our own supply chain based on cow protection and land stewardship. That means 10 years from now, your daughter will be an adult, and she probably won't be with you anymore. Maybe, maybe not. But, so what are you going to do? Well, you should be planning. Yes, we should follow this plan. We can buy, we choose an area. It could be Enumclaw, it could be Snohomish, some area that's not in the city. And people buy small farms. And there's plenty of farms for sale. People going out of business on the farm. Their kids don't want to work on the farm anymore, so they get old, and either they die or they sell before they die. So, and then we all have these small farms, and we have one central, central processing farm, and we all have a few cows and a little bit of land. We grow our own food, and we sell the milk, and we sell the vegetables through the cooperative. And there's a whole supply chain, and our kids can enter into the supply chain. So in order to do this in a realistic way, we need kids who are educated as microbiologists, as Ayurvedic doctors, as dairymen, as farmers, as soil amendment experts, as bankers, as transportation business, and so forth. You need lawyers, you need that whole supply chain to support such a, let's say, developed, self-sufficient community. That doesn't mean we abandon the temple, but the temple should be for the people that are most expert at preaching. And then everybody else, they also become expert at preaching, but they develop this sustainable model for the future. The sustainable model, look what's happening in Seattle right now. The apartments and the houses are so expensive, people can't afford them, right? But yet, there's chaos in Seattle, in many parts of Seattle, especially the downtown area. The stores are boarded up because there's rioting all the time. They can't predict when this rioting is going to stop. There's homeless people all over the place, not just a little bit. Now they're all over the place, and they're increasing. You see, how are they going to solve this problem? Now they're going to open up injection clinics. You can get free heroin injected, and they pay for you to get your injection. You know, it's just getting worse and worse. It's being supported for going down. It's not being supported to go up. Right? So you see, and people think, well, I'll live in Bellevue. But, you know, once Seattle is ruined, then it'll come to Bellevue. You know, and all the people who bought these houses in Bellevue are buying houses in Bellevue now for, you know, $5 million and $8 million. The houses are very expensive. The least expensive house is like $2 million now in Bellevue, right? All of a sudden, the same thing will happen there. Then where are they going to go? See, so the only sustainable model is to go back to the Vedic village concept, or the self-sufficient village, where you don't depend on the outside. And Prabhupada wanted this. I can show you letters when he said, I want Mayapur to be self-sufficient. But they're not making Mayapur self-sufficient. Right? But also in France, at New Mayapur, he wanted New Mayapur to be self-sufficient. It's not self-sufficient. Right? So somebody's got to break the chain of failure and make a self-sufficient community. That's the only sustainable model for the future. And that's the way this country started. The first people that came here, they established self-sufficient villages. They didn't have Walmart and Fred Meyer, and they didn't have plastic, and they didn't have inorganic chemistry, none of that stuff. They had to live off the land. And they succeeded, right? They succeeded. But then they started building cities, and then the Industrial Revolution came, and that ruined the whole thing. We do not need equipment. We definitely don't need equipment. So we have to solve this problem. Well, there are examples of self-sufficient communities. You have the older, more strict Pennsylvania Dutch. They've been living self-sufficiently for 350 years.
Amish community.
Yeah, but not all the Amish. A certain part of them. Many of them have transited, has gone toward production. Modernization, but the ones that are still very strict, they're living. But of course, they're meat eaters and things like that. See, so that's not ideal either. But it's in the right direction. So you get my idea. So in the next 10 years, you have a chance to transit, because your daughter won't be there. She'll get married and probably end up in Japan or someplace like that. You know. And what are you going to do? You're going to say. So, and you'll be able to sell your house or apartment for a good price, and then you can buy land. You know, if everyone stays in the general same neighborhood, we can make a whole supply chain based on dairy and agriculture, and not depend on machinery.
So Maharaj, you mentioned about a list of people we need, professional like doctors and highly qualified professional people.
Yeah.
So then they have to go to the educational system that we have.
Yeah, I want to start an agricultural college where we teach all those things: Ayurveda, land amendment, dairy. That's my plan, is to start an agricultural college,
Mm-hmm.
in which you have all these self-sufficient professions.
The lawyers, they vet everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible to do if a lot of people get together and actually work on it.
So another point is like the vision is just like Prabhupada mentions many times.
If we have to go outside to get a certain profession, that's okay, because you're going to use it in Krishna's service.
Right. But you have to have enough money to support them, because those professionals, very expensive. from outside, that the lawyers.
It depends on certain things.
Because they won't be volunteers, you know what I mean?
Anyway, that's why you have to have a supply chain based on milk and cow protection and land stewardship. You're going to make money. You're going to make money. But it's based, just like Nanda Maharaj, he was a very wealthy man. He had 900,000 cows. He's extremely wealthy. So why can't we do that?
You know why? Because
All you need is 9,000 cows. You don't need 900,000 cows. You just need 9,000 cows. You would get wealthy. Yeah, go ahead.
But they didn't have bills like in modern life, expensive costs like, huge cost of like the power to pay electricity, to pay water.
No, we have to produce our own. See, that's the whole thing, self-sufficiency. You can produce your own electricity by having a biodigester and also buying solar panels, and having wood stoves, things like that. You produce your own energy. All the technology is there to become self-sufficient. You just have to switch your orientation from being dependent to going toward becoming independent. Economically, and just like myself, I hardly spend any money. Of course, I'm living in a temple, but when you live very simply, you don't spend that much money. And you have to learn to downsize intelligently to a point where your expenses are easily achieved. Easily achieved. Yeah.
Last thing I was going to say is like this kind of vision, and it's like we have vision of Varnasrama Dharma too, which is, practically speaking, is not functional. Varnasrama Dharma. Prabhupada is stressed on that, Varnasrama Dharma. But we can see it's not functional.
No, this temple is an example of Daiva Varnasrama Dharma. You're a brahmachari, right? I'm a grihasta. These are other grihastas. They're working outside, but the focus of their life is the temple. That's Daiva Varnasrama. That's Daiva Varnasrama. The original Varnasrama system, it cannot be practiced in Kali Yuga.
Right.
People are not qualified enough to do it. But Daiva Varnasrama is very possible. Okay, they're not going anywhere. Just leave it on the table. So this is Daiva. What you're seeing here is Daiva Varnasrama. All kinds of different ethnicities, all kinds of different people, all working together because the central focus is serving the deity and serving Prabhupada and Acharyas. This is Daiva Varnasrama.
In a small scale.
It could be as big. Well, we have temples all over the world doing it. If you add up all the temples, it's not so small scale. But we have to become more proactive in preaching. Our preaching is not proactive enough. It's got to be more dynamic. Okay, any other questions? Yeah.
So Maharaj, as you explained,
Mike.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, as you have explained the vision, it's very good, and I'm willing towards it. So, but what steps we can take now, like so that we will make a progressive growth in that by the 10 years? Like
Learn
we have to do
Bhagavatam.
something.
Learn Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. To prepare yourself with knowledge, and then learn, like you're taking the truck out regularly, right? Distributing prasadam, and you're coming and volunteering at the farm also. So all these things are preparation. Why do we have a farm? So that people see, yeah, this is a good thing, growing your own food, having fresh milk from your own cows, taking care of the cows, right? Okay, this is what you would call the first step. The first step is to see something and think, this is possible. I can do this also. If you don't see anything, you're never going to go, it's impossible. I can't do it. So why do we have the truck? Why do we have the farm? Why do we have cows? Why do we grow vegetables? Why do we do these things? So people can see, wait a minute, this is a viable way for the future. We have to do it. Prabhupada wants us to do it. He wants us to do it.
Then Maharaj, some people, they find it, they have no clue how to do it. So I think the advice should be, just like we do, like if you can preach, you can do a lot of preaching activity, but you should contribute to the preaching mission. So like what I'm trying to say is that some of the Grihasthas were practicing Daiva, Varnasrama Dharma. If they have no clue, but then they should probably contribute or support the project in different ways.
Well, yeah, that's happening also. People are supporting. Obviously we're getting donations all the time for the temple and for the farm and the food distribution.
Yeah, that's why I say that, so that people shouldn't feel that they're not doing nothing, But at least if they can somewhere contribute to.
Money is the honey.
Right.
Money is the honey.
So give some income.
No, as long as you have a large group of people cooperating, you can do anything. You can get any goal. You can achieve any goal if there's a large group of people cooperating, and they all have the same convictions and vision.
Mm-hmm.
It's to get that group, that consensus understanding. See, like most people think, well, my daughter my kids get married and go, I might move back to India and go back to my ancestral land that we had. Of course, it's been sold now, but maybe I can buy it back, and try and live there.
Is that bad?
Huh?
Is that bad?
It's not bad, but to go back to India, some people can do it. Some people can't do it. They got used to living in the United States. You never know. You never know. Going back to your ancestral land, the farm that was there, that your grandmother and grandfather were maintaining, and your ancestors maintained. Yeah, that's possible.
Very cheap, like.
Nothing is cheap in India anymore, Don't think it's cheap. It's not cheap anymore. And it's complicated. The same problems we have here, they have in India. It might even be worse.
And the culture, the environment.
Might have changed now.
Environment.
It's changed a lot, tremendously.
So Maharaj, when one says that they want to go back to India, is it because of the attachment they have, and also maybe the grass on the other side is always green, correct? Or sometimes it's valid?
Look, you can go anywhere and create Vaikuntha if you're a
It doesn't
devotee.
have to be India, it can be anywhere.
It can be anywhere. You can go to Alaska and create Vaikuntha. You can go to Sammamish, 25 years ago and create Vaikuntha. You see, it depends on your dedication to serving Guru and Krishna. Another plan would be just dynamically increase the preaching, just like Prabhupada did. So therefore, you might say, okay, look, I've had it. I'm not going to continue like this anymore. I'm moving to Spokane, and I'm going to open a temple. I mean, that's what I did. I did that several times. Opened the temple, or maintained the temple that was going to close. I did it at least 3 times in my life so far. opened the first temple in France, there was no temple at all. So you see, that's the other thing that should be done, is that this pioneering spirit. I'm going to Alaska. There's no temple there. I'll go to Juneau, or I'll go to one of these places, and I'll open a temple. Or I'll go to Olympia. I'm going to open a temple. There's no temple in Olympia. There are a lot of Indians there. There's no temple. Or I'll go to Skagit and open a temple. See, that's the other model. In the next 10 years, there should be 20 temples in Washington State. So who's going to do that? So you can do it. Why not? Prabhupada did it. In the first 4 years, he dynamically opened a whole bunch of temples because the devotees were willing to go with no money, no, let's say, not knowing anyone, like in New Mexico or Florida, and they were just determined, I'm going to open a temple. And they did it. I did it in Paris. I did it in Portland. There was no temple there for a couple of years. We opened a new one. Did it here. So you can do that. That's another model. Spreading the movement. Just depending on Krishna and depending on preaching. So there's two models for the future. One is the community farm and land and supply chain and so forth. And the other model is opening temples.
Mm-hmm.
You can open 20 temples, 50 temples in Washington State. Why not? But you have to get out of this idea that, I'm going to listen to Bhagavatam, but I'm not going to take it seriously. I'm not going to change my life because it's too comfortable what I have. I can go home. I don't have to come to Mangal Arati every day if I don't want to. Even if I don't have to chant my rounds, it's okay. I can get away with it. No, that's like Arjuna saying he doesn't want to fight. You got to get more determined to preach. Just having a comfortable situation is not, when I moved here from Berkeley after saving the Berkeley Temple, I moved here. This was like zero potential. Zero potential here. We're far away from Seattle. Nobody was coming. There was no money. No pujaris. I was a pujari for like 4 years. You see, and pujari and cook. So you have to be ready to get out of your comfort zone and actually, take a risk. If you want to be a preacher, you have to take a risk. The first temple I opened was a huge risk. Somehow or other, Krishna saved us. So unless you do that, you don't really get the taste of transcendental life. You put your life on the line. You're willing to take a big risk. But it's because you have faith in Guru and Krishna. That's why you'll take that risk. If you don't have any faith, you say, whoa, wait a minute. Whoa. I'm not taking such a big risk. Okay, then you can. That's why there's farm communities. Right? But see, everybody living in the same community is not a good model because then you're dependent again. You want to have these small farms. You have you learn to be self-sufficient yourself, but you cooperate with the bigger model. But if everything fails, you're still self-sufficient and you still have a subsistence. But everything's not going to fail as long as people follow the regulative principles. It's only when they stop following that the failure comes. Yeah. So there has to be a strong spiritual basis, even for country farming community. But it shouldn't be all centralized. It should be a confederation of people working together, not a centralized thing where everyone is dependent. You have to learn to be self-sufficient. That's the whole point. Okay, so we'll stop right there. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.